There have been a lot of questions that I personally would love answered. I think a lot of Americans would have loved answered over the past couple of weeks about Trump's taxes, the state of the uterus collector at ICE detention facilities, all of those things. Who actually motivated the white supremacist terrorists to try to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer? These are all great questions, but there's one that has actually been asked of Trump administration officials repeatedly over the past week and a half, and they simply will not answer. And I'm gonna give you a great example of that. So this is Hallie Jackson on her show with White House spokesman Brian Morgenstern, asking him a very simple, very important question. When was Donald Trump's last negative test before the debate with Biden last week? And here is his attempts to evade responsibility in this area.
Of that, you don't know or you don't want to say?
So we don't have that. I don't personally know.
Right. What does that mean? Have you asked, Brian? I think Wednesday you said you were going to look into that.
So Hallie, the president doesn't check all of his HIPAA rights at the door just when he becomes president.
So it's a privacy thing then? The reason why you're not saying the last negative test, HIPAA.
So that is one reason. The fact of the matter is, there's a reason to share certain information. It's to prevent further transmission of the virus. It's public health purposes, and that's what we're doing.
Got it. But you just said a couple of minutes ago that you would share the results of his PCR test today if you get it and if that happens. So what's the difference? Why not be more transparent with people about this last negative test? You know there is a public health reason for this, and it impacts the people who were potentially exposed to the virus before the president was diagnosed. Why not be transparent about that specific, very specific piece of information?
So Hallie, I stated we'll have further updates from the doctors. We've had updates from the doctors every single day.
You are Hallie, not saying when the president's last negative test was. Let's be clear about that. But let me ask someone else.
But the president was socially distanced from people. Certainly, you focused a lot on the New Jersey event. Everybody there said he was never within 6 feet of anybody.
Brian, we have video. We know the president wasn't socially distanced from everybody.
But
that's not true. We've seen video of the president over the weekend, Brian. We have eyeballs. Let me ask you this. Did the president at least comply with the Cleveland Clinic debate requirements to be negative tested in the 72 hours prior to that debate? Was that was the president in compliance with that?
Backwards. The president is very interested in getting back out on the campaign trail.
I'm very focused on getting an answer to this question, Brian, and I think a lot of people are.
As soon as he is not going to be transmitting the virus, we will have information on that. He is excited to do it.
Got it. So as for the last debate, the 72-hour requirement to test negative, did the president comply with that, yes or no?
Hallie, we are looking at how the president can get out there without transmitting the virus, and that's what we're going to do.
That is not the question that is in front of you, Brian. So do you not have an answer? I just want to be clear. I know, again, yes or no, do you have an answer?
Hallie,
and if you don't, just say you don't have an answer.
You've got time to talk to the White House about very important issues. Let's talk about how we want to help people get through this virus with more stimulus that the speaker seems to ignore. She's now talking about the 25th Amendment because she couldn't get the president with impeachment.
Well, that is not actually the topic of this conversation, Brian, because as you know, nope. All right, Brian, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Yeah, she's good.
Hallie Jackson has been, has been my news crush for quite some time. She used to sit next to like John Roberts in the front of the White House, like press briefings, and just like stare him down like, oh, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. So she's in my news crush. She just had a baby. It's a very happy family, whatever. But I do want to say this. There was a lot to talk about in that, but the one that really jumped out to me is when he finally goes, Hallie, you're really preoccupied with looking back. Okay. Trump is still talking about Hillary Clinton's emails.
Yeah.
That is something that he, as of yesterday, got mad at Bill Barr for not being able to act on. He's saying, go arrest Hillary Clinton. You won that for it. It's been an entire election cycle. And maybe that's his cycle when he turns into a total monster and he's got blood coming out of his whatever. But come on, that is not a valid excuse.
Yeah.
And the reason he doesn't want you to look back is because of how terribly the Trump administration has obviously failed in all of this. We have that graphic we always keep going back to where the EU has had way fewer infections and positive tests than the United States have, despite having 30% more people.
Yeah, that was awful. I mean, any one of those, like that's like the longest video we played on the show in months and months because it was just so much, and we were cutting out a lot too. But he wouldn't answer. He obviously wouldn't answer. He said he would get the information days ago. He's obviously not going to do that. No one will answer. So it's on us to say, okay, this is the evidence we have. What is likely to be true? Since they won't let us know what's true, what's likely to be true, and what's likely to be true is one of two things, neither good. Either he was tested in the 72 hours before the debate and he tested positive but did it anyway, which you might think, well, it couldn't possibly be that. He's not a psychopath, but yeah, have you been awake for the past few years? Or he just doesn't get tested and they've been lying about him getting tested. Maybe he doesn't like the thing going up his nose, I don't know, whatever. But he hadn't actually done it for at least 3 days beforehand. And they don't want to go on the record as saying something that's not true. One of those two things is true. Both are so incredibly irresponsible towards Joe Biden that I would say Joe Biden, no matter what happens, should not do an in-person debate with Donald Trump. No matter what precautions or requirements in testing or whatever, Trump will lie about it. He won't comply with it. That is not a hypothetical, it's already the case. That's the best case scenario from last time. And I will simply say about his evasions, as a representative of the Trump administration, there are basically two kinds. There are ones who break and ones who don't break. And he's one of the ones that can't help but smile when he lies a certain number of times. He started smiling multiple times because he's not 100% a sociopath. And he gets that what he's doing is incredibly dishonest. And he gets that she gets what he's doing. And he can't help but smile about that situation. And that makes him not as good at his job as someone like Kayleigh McEnany, or especially the queen of not breaking would be Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Yeah.
Good God. It's so bad.
Dishonest. Oh, by the way, can I add one thing to the that 3-day period? So is it that he hadn't been tested at all, or is it that he tested positive? Let's get a little bit more evidence, possibly towards he actually tested positive, and it's this. You remember, he arrived late to the debate and couldn't be tested. Now that is, no matter what, that's irresponsible, right? But does it make sense to arrive late to a debate that you'd want to prep for and get comfortable for and all of that you went to this city to do, that you'd be late to that venue? Or does it make sense that you'd be late if you really don't want to take that test because you know what it's going to say?
There's so, and that's not the only interpretation of the chain of events that's incriminating. Like, and against the Trump administration, and saying that he's not taking it seriously. A, he's admitted that he had intentionally downplayed it. B, his entire entourage took their masks off as soon as they got there. C, the entire White House is flooded with disease on a timeline that matches what you put out. It doesn't make any sense for any reason other than, and today he's trying to blame Gold Star families for him getting sick. He is trying to, so that event that led to the illness of a high-ranking, I think it's Coast Guard official, who is now like, in intensive care or whatever. He's trying to say that the Gold Star families loved him so much that they wanted to get so close and give him kisses that that's why he got sick. It's from, and Gold Star families are the families of fallen soldiers.
Yeah, that's
it.
That's insane. And that's like of all of the people he could blame. That's insane. That is crazier than anything Obama said in 8 years.
And that's why
he wouldn't have gotten to it if Brett hadn't brought it up.
And that's why, exactly. Reminder, it's been a week since we found out he paid $750 in taxes. 1 week. And before that, nothing. Like 1 week. That's like bare naked ladies 1 week.
It's exactly like that. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.